They arrested the trucker at the border. His fingerprints shut down the whole system. Nobody called ahead about Ray Decker. That was the thing about border crossings at 5 in the morning. Every driver looked more or less the same, older than they should be, quieter than they wanted to be. Ray Decker fit that description so completely that Agent Carla Hennessy almost waved him through without the full check. Almost. Ray was 64, built like a man who had spent 4 decades doing physical work and had never quite stopped. Gray-brown hair, jaw unshaved 3 days, eyes a light clear hazel that caught the fluorescent light in a way Hennessy noticed but could not explain. He handed over his license and freight manifest without being asked. "Harlan Cross Logistics," she said, reading the manifest. "Running out of El Paso." "Yes, ma'am." "Destination?" "Laredo Freight Terminal. Standard run." She looked at his license. Raymond Earl Decker. Date of birth placing him squarely in his mid-60s. Organ donor. El Paso address. Everything clean, everything ordinary. "Step inside for secondary, Mr. Decker." Routine. He didn't argue, didn't ask why, just nodded once, turned off the engine, and climbed down from the cab with the unhurried movement of a man who has been asked to do things he didn't particularly want to do and has learned that cooperating is simply faster. Inside the secondary inspection building, Agent Torres ran the license. He was newer than Hennessy, still at the stage of his career where he believed that procedures existed because they worked and that following them precisely was its own form of competence. He typed the license number. The database did not return. It froze. He typed it again. The cursor blinked 3 times, and the screen went entirely blue. Flat, institutional, a color Torres had never seen on any federal terminal in 2 years. A single line of white text appeared in the center of the screen. Access restricted. Contact Tier 3 authorization. Torres stared at it. Then he looked at Ray Decker, who was sitting in the plastic chair against the wall with his hands resting on his knees, looking at nothing in particular. "Sir, can I get your social security number?" Ray gave it to him without hesitating. Torres entered it, the same blue screen, the same white text. Torres picked up his desk phone and called the supervisor's station. Hennessy arrived 2 minutes later. She looked at the screen. She looked at Decker. She picked up a different phone, the landline that connected to the Federal Database Support Center, and made a call that lasted approximately 40 seconds, during which her expression shifted from professional patience to something more careful. She hung up. She looked at Torres. "Get Reinhold," she said quietly. Reinhold was the senior agent on shift, 15 years at this crossing. He came in, looked at the screen, looked at Decker, and pulled out his personal cell phone and made a call from his own number. He turned to Decker. "I need you to stay with us a little while longer." "That's fine," Ray said. Reinhold stepped outside. Through the glass, Torres and Hennessy watched him make a second call, this one longer, and watched his posture change the way a man's posture changes when speaking to someone considerably above his station. Torres looked at Decker. "Can I ask you what you're hauling, sir?" "Manifests on the clipboard," Ray said. "Machine parts, agricultural equipment components, routing through Laredo to a distributor in San Antonio." "How long have you been driving for Harlan Cross?" 7 years. "And before that?" Ray looked at him, just looked for a moment, with those clear hazel eyes. "Different work," he said. Torres waited for more. More did not come. Outside, Reinhold had ended his second call and was standing very still, looking at the pre-dawn sky over the parking area, with the expression of a man recalibrating. It had been 11 minutes since Ray Decker's fingerprints entered the federal system. The first vehicle arrived at 14 minutes. A dark SUV, no markings, Texas plates, moving fast. Then a second one. Then a third. They parked in a configuration that blocked the secondary inspection area's exit without quite looking like they were blocking it, the way people do things when they have been trained to do them without drawing attention. 2 people got out of the first vehicle. Civilian clothes, federal bearing, a woman in her 40s, short dark hair, the expression of someone accustomed to being the senior presence in any room, a man behind her, scanning. They spoke briefly with Reinhold and came inside. The woman looked at Ray Decker. Decker looked at her. "Hello, Director," he said. She pulled a chair from behind Torres's desk and sat down across from Decker directly, at the same level, which told Taurus something about the dynamics at work. She did not offer her name. She set a tablet on her knee and clasped her hands over it. "You've been driving freight out of El Paso for 7 years," she said. "Yes." "Nobody found you." "Nobody was looking," Ray said. "Or if they were, they weren't looking for a freight driver." "We were looking," she said. "Then you weren't looking in the right places." A silence settled in the small room. Taurus and Hennessy had backed toward the wall without quite being told to, the way people do when the gravity of a conversation becomes apparent, and they understand instinctively that they are furniture in it. "There's a situation," the director said. "There's always a situation," Ray said. "That's how this starts. There's a situation, and someone decides I'm the solution to it, and I end up somewhere I didn't plan to be. You crossed this particular border at this particular time on this particular morning," she said, "crossing into federal systems with a flagged biometric profile. That's not an accident." Ray looked at her steadily. "My route brings me through this crossing every 3rd week, and the flag on your profile has been active for 3 years. In 3 years of crossing this point, your credentials have never triggered it." She paused. "Because for 3 years, you've been using a different license. Different name, different carrier." Her voice didn't change. "You used your real name this morning, Mr. Decker, which means you wanted to be found." The room was very quiet. Ray leaned back slightly in the plastic chair. The fluorescent light above him hummed. Outside, through the glass, Taurus could see the dark SUVs and the men standing near them with the patience of people accustomed to standing and waiting in parking lots at inconvenient hours. "There's a convoy," Ray said. She didn't confirm it, didn't deny it. "Tell me what you know." "I know there's a federal transport moving through the southern corridor in the next 72 hours. I know the route was finalized 3 days ago, and that finalization was not as secure as the people who finalized it believed it was." He looked at her. "And I know that the 2 most plausible interdiction points are both on roads that I have driven more times than any active federal asset currently assigned to the operation." "How do you know about the transport?" "Because I spent 11 years making sure things got from one place to another without being intercepted," Ray said. "People who did that work don't entirely stop thinking like people who did that work, even driving freight in El Paso." "Ghost Meridian," the director said. "A designation, not a name." Ray was quiet. "I haven't heard that in a long time." "It's in your file. What remains of it? Enough to know the Sonora operation. Enough to know why the 2009 Northern Corridor transport arrived intact when every piece of intelligence suggested it wouldn't." She paused. "Enough to want your help." Ray looked at the middle distance. Torres had the strange sense of watching a man perform a calculation that had nothing to do with numbers. 2 interdiction points, Ray said. The Route 83 junction and the Piedras Negras Road, and the overpass at mile marker 247 on the 277 corridor. The man behind the director shifted his weight. 277 is the higher probability. Better sight lines, 11-minute federal response time, dry creek bed on the eastern side with 2 exit vectors. He looked at the director. Whoever planned this knows those roads. They've run freight on them or been driven by someone who has. We have agents positioned, the director said. How many at the overpass? 4. Ray shook his head. Not dramatically, just a small, definitive movement. 4 isn't enough, not if the interdiction team knows the creek bed. You need coverage on the eastern exit vector, or you have 3 people managing a blocking action and nobody on containment. He paused. And you need a rig. She looked at him. A federal transport convoy looks like a federal transport convoy, Ray said. It moves like one. It sounds like one on radio traffic monitoring, and anyone watching the corridor knows what one looks like from 2 miles away. What they don't expect is freight. He let that sit for a moment. I've run the 277 corridor 40 times in 7 years. My rig has a legitimate manifest, legitimate plates, and a scheduling history that predates any knowledge of this operation. If I'm on that road at the right time, I'm furniture. I'm background. I'm a truck driver making a delivery. And if the interdiction team moves early, the director said, then I know the road and they don't, Ray said simply. The fluorescent light hummed. A radio outside crackled briefly and went quiet. The director looked at him for a long moment, the look of a woman making a decision she has mostly already made. You understand this is not a sanctioned operation in any official sense. If something goes wrong, I'm a freight driver who was in the wrong place, Ray said. I've been in worse positions with less cover. She nodded once. She stood and picked up her tablet. She looked at Torres and Hennessy, who had been standing against the wall for the past 12 minutes, feeling like people who had accidentally walked into a film and were not sure whether to stay or leave. These officers had a routine shift, she said. It was not quite a question and not quite an order. It was the kind of statement that closed doors. Reinhold, who had returned to the doorway, nodded. He had the look of a 15-year veteran adding something to the internal file he kept of things he had seen and would never speak about. Ray stood. He straightened his jacket and looked at Torres briefly. You did right, running the full check, he said. Most people would have waved me through. Torres said nothing. Ray nodded once and walked back out to his rig. The 277 corridor was 4 hours south. He had time. He pulled out of the secondary lot with the same unhurried movement he had arrived with, merged back onto the pre-dawn highway, and became immediately and entirely unremarkable. One truck among the sparse early traffic, headlights ahead and taillights behind. The ordinary commerce of a country that moves its goods in the dark while most people sleep. He ran the road in his head as he drove. Every mile marker, every grade change, every point where the sight lines opened up or closed down. He had driven it 40 times. He knew where the asphalt got soft in summer heat and where the shoulder dropped away without warning, and where the overpass at mile marker 247 threw a shadow in afternoon light that could hide a vehicle if a vehicle knew to use it. He thought about the creek bed on the eastern side, dry this time of year, maybe 2 feet deep, cutting northeast through scrub toward a dirt access road that connected eventually to a ranch property, and from there to a county road with 2 clean exit routes. If he were running the interdiction, that's where he would stage. Close enough for a fast approach, far enough to stay off the federal sensor perimeter, with a fallback route that didn't cross any monitored corridors. He thought about the 4 agents the director had positioned. 4 was optimistic. He picked up his phone, hands-free, mounted on the dash, and made a call to a number he had memorized 11 years ago and not dialed in 7. It rang 4 times before someone answered with silence, which was the correct response. It's Meridian, Ray said. I need eyes on the 277 overpass. Creek bed approach, eastern vector, whatever you can get me in 3 hours. He paused, and I need you to not ask me why. The silence on the other end lasted exactly long enough to communicate something that wasn't quite agreement and wasn't quite refusal. Then the call ended. Ray drove south. The sky was beginning to lighten behind him, the first pale gray of a desert dawn coming up over the eastern horizon, turning the scrub and the dry hills from black shapes to brown ones. He passed a fuel stop, a cluster of ranch mailboxes, a faded billboard advertising a motel that had probably closed a decade ago. The road was almost empty. A southbound semi passed him going the other way, headlights bright, gone in a second. He thought about 7 years of the same routes, the same dispatchers who called him by his first name and asked about his knee. 7 years of being Raymond Decker, freight driver, no complications. He had been good at it, genuinely good at the logistics, the discipline of arriving on time. He had told himself it was enough. Most days he believed it. The Route 83 junction passed on his left, blinking yellow. He checked it out of habit and kept going. The 83 junction was more visible, more trafficked, more exposed. The 277 corridor was the kind of road that appeared in logistics databases as a standard alternate and received no special attention. Which was why Ray knew it. A text, one word, from the number he had called. A compass direction and a distance, southeast, 1,100 meters from the overpass. So they were already there. Earlier than the interdiction window the director had outlined, which meant either the timeline had moved up, or there were more people involved than the director knew about, or both. Ray recalculated. If they were staged 1,100 meters out, and the federal convoy was still on the original schedule, There was a window of approximately 40 minutes during which the convoy would be within range of a fast approach from the creek bed before the federal agents at the overpass could effectively respond. He pressed the hands-free again. This time he called the number the director had given him. She picked up on the second ring. "They're already staged," he said without preamble. "Southeast of the overpass, 1,100 meters, creek bed approach. Timeline is not what you were given. You need to move your positioning in the next 20 minutes, or your people at the overpass are going to be reacting instead of acting." A brief silence. "How are you getting this?" "It doesn't matter how I'm getting it," Ray said. "What matters is what you do with it. Move your eastern coverage now, and delay the convoy by 30 minutes. Radio traffic only. Make it sound like a mechanical issue. If they're monitoring your frequencies, a delay gives them a reason to hold position rather than advance." Another silence, shorter. "Done. What's your position?" 6 miles out. I'll be at the overpass in 8 minutes. Decker, I'll park on the shoulder, north side, hazard lights. Maintenance issue with a rear axle." He paused. "If anything moves in that creek bed before the convoy arrives, it's going to have to come past a parked semi. That narrows the approach. You're using your rig as a barrier. I'm using my rig as a truck that broke down on the side of a road, which is a thing that happens." A pause. Not quite admiration, not quite frustration, something between the two. "Don't get shot," she said. "Planning to avoid it," Ray said, and ended the call. The overpass appeared in his headlights 4 minutes later. Concrete, functional, unremarkable, exactly as he knew it. The north shoulder was wide enough for a semi, the eastern scrub exactly as thick as he remembered. He pulled over, activated the hazards, killed the main lights, and sat in the dark cab with the ticking of the hazards and the desert going slowly pale around him. 1,100 meters to the southeast, in a dry creek bed, people were waiting. Ray Decker had spent 11 years making sure things arrived where they were supposed to. Mountain terrain, jungle terrain, urban terrain, terrain that appeared on no map available without specific clearance, when the odds were reasonable and when they were not. He had driven freight in El Paso for 7 years because he was tired, not the kind sleep fixes, but the kind that only distance and quiet and the long, uncomplicated discipline of a schedule can slowly address. He had thought it was over. He watched the eastern scrub. 31 minutes later, he saw movement. Not much. A shift in the shadow where the creek bed curved northward. A quality of darkness changing its texture. Someone adjusting position, maybe, or the leading element of an approach beginning to move. Ray reached under the seat, not for the canvas roll this time. For the radio, the secondary unit he kept there, military encrypted, that had been silent for 7 years until this morning when he had switched it on for the first time and dialed a frequency he still knew by memory and called a number that a man named Hollis still answered. He keyed the radio. "Eastern approach is moving. I have visual on the lead element. 30 meters into the open, moving north by northeast." The response came back in under 10 seconds, in a voice he recognized as one of the federal agents the director had repositioned. "Copy that. We have them. Hold your position." "Holding," Ray said. What followed was fast and organized, and from Ray's position in the cab, visible only in pieces. Flashlights, shouted commands, the sound of running on packed ground. A well-run containment operation that goes the way it is supposed to go because the people running it had what they needed in time to use it. 7 minutes. Then quiet. The director's voice on his phone, 4 in custody, no shots fired, convoy rerouted, ETA 40 minutes. "Good," Ray said. "I need you to stay on scene for—" "No," Ray said. A pause. "Decker, I have a freight manifest and a delivery window," Ray said. "Laredo Terminal. I'm already behind schedule. There will need to be a debrief, documentation. There are people who will want to speak with you." "There are always people who want to speak with me," Ray said. "That's been true my entire career, and it has never once led anywhere I found worthwhile." He watched the eastern scrub settle back into ordinary stillness. What happened here will be in whatever report gets filed under whatever classification it gets filed under. I was a truck driver who broke down on the side of a road. That's the story, and it's the accurate one. The silence that followed was the silence of a woman deciding how hard to push. She decided not to push. "Thank you," she said. It was simple, and it was genuine, and it landed the way genuine things do when they come from people who don't say them often. Ray didn't answer right away. He looked out at the desert, going fully light now, the dawn completed while he wasn't paying attention, the scrub brown and the sky pale blue, and the road empty in both directions. "You should know something," he said. "What?" "The freight driver thing isn't a cover. Not anymore. I drive freight because it needs doing, and because I'm good at it, and because nobody asks me for anything I'm not willing to give." He paused. Today was an exception. Try not to make it a pattern. He canceled the hazard lights, started the engine, and pulled onto the road. The convoy passed him going the other direction 20 minutes later. 3 vehicles, federal markings, moving fast. The agents inside could not have known who was in the northbound semi they passed without slowing. The driver was nobody, just a man on a schedule, running freight through the desert. Ray watched them in his mirror, then looked at the road ahead and drove. At the Laredo terminal, the receiving agent noted that Decker was 47 minutes behind his window. "Road issue," Ray said. "Axle check. False alarm." The agent noted it and handed back the signed manifest without further comment. Ray pulled to the unloading bay and killed the engine and sat in the quiet. The terminal was coming alive around him. Forklifts, voices, the beep of reversing vehicles. Ordinary morning at a freight terminal in Laredo. He reached into his jacket pocket and took out a military challenge coin, brass, worn smooth on both faces. One side, a designation he no longer used in conversation. The other, a motto in Latin that translated roughly as "what is carried, arrives." He held it a moment, then put it back, climbed down from the cab, and went to sign the paperwork.